We're loving and hating and making scenes. Now we just see everything we believe.
Hello, what's going on YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here, and some new Ignister cards got revealed I think yesterday or the day before, I don't know which one. So essentially I'm going to make a rundown of the archetype. I think I'm going to start doing this a lot more. When new archetypes get revealed, I'm just going to start running down some of the cards and seeing what they have, or, you know, the usefulness they have in, I guess, the competitive scene. But other than that, I really haven't even seen the other ones. So I am very far behind. So I'm going to go through all these monsters and actually kind of play catch up a little bit. If that makes any sense. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Card for Ignition Assault. Off the screen. Alright, there we go. So this is what? Light Dragon and Ignister. At Ignister, I don't know what's with the A symbol. Whatever. It's rank 4. It's a Cyberse. It's a XC Cyberse. Okay, cool. Just 2 level 4 monsters, so it's generic. You can only use the first and second effect once per turn, so it has 3 effects. The third one is once per turn then. You can detach material from this card. Destroy face-up monsters your opponent controls up to the number of Ignister monsters you control. Okay. I'm assuming there's more ways. I'm assuming there's ways to put up multiple Ignister monsters on field at a time to make use of that effect. So I haven't read any of the main deck ones, or maybe some of the extra deck ones can put out some or whatever. So we'll just have to wait and see. When another Cyberse monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can special summon a Link monster from your graveyard. Oh, okay. So I'm assuming this whole archetype is Cyberse, or it's supposed to work in tangent with Cyberse monsters. One of these two. If a monster you control would be destroyed by an effect, you can detach the material this card is said. So it's essentially like She-Orcus Dingirsu, basically. It can protect any of your monsters, not just Cyberse or Ignister. So it's a generic rank 4. It's just 2 level 4 monsters. It's got 2300 attack, so it's not terrible in terms of stats. It's a good card, I guess. Again, we're just gonna have to see the rest of the archetypes. So let's go and move on to the next card. All right, guys. Next we have Dark Templar Ignister. It's a Cyberse. 3 monsters with different names and link materials. All of its arrows are pointing straight down, so that's actually good. It's 2300. I mean, it looks like a Deco Talker, just some looks of it, so maybe this is a Yusaku archetype, who knows. Let's see. You can only use the first and second effects once per turn each. If a monster is special summoned to a zone the card points to, even during the damage step. Okay. You can special summon as many level 4 lower Ignister monsters as possible from the graveyard to the zones this card points to, but their effects are negated. If a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to. Okay, so I'm assuming there's going to be some in-archetype based card that can summon. It doesn't summon them to defense mode, so I'm pretty sure there's some card that in the archetype that will allow a monster to be summoned to one of his zones during the battle phase. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. We're going to have to wait and see. Or if there's more like monsters that are going to enable you to do so. And this puts monsters on board for the that Light Dragon that we had read earlier. So it's pretty good. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon a Cyberse monster from your graveyard. Okay, so this deck is already looking out to be just a generic Cyberse, or a deck that can intertwine with just generic Cyberse-based cards like Lady Debugs and Balancer Lords and stuff like that. So this is, this archetype's already looking be going in the right directions. Alright guys, so moving on, we have another Link monster. It's another Link 3, Fire Phoenix Ignister. Let's see, materials on this one are 2+ Cyberse monsters. Inflict damage to your opponent equal to this card's attack. Oh, it's 2,300. Alright. It's decent damage. I guess you have a built-in way to cheat some time. You can... And if you do, this card inflicts no battle damage to your opponent during this battle. I mean, I guess if it can attack again, I can see how that would come up. If this card... Get off my screen. If this card is destroyed by an effect, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. So it has to specifically be destroyed. If it said if it would have left the field by monster effect or card effect, it would have been a little bit better. If this link summon card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard during your next standby phase, you can special summon this card from the graveyard. So it's a little slower, but it gives you 3 link materials, and it doesn't banish itself on the least field. So that actually seems pretty relevant. Alright guys, I was missing one more card. This is Linkuriboh. It's like a angry looking Linkuriboh. Its arrows are bottom left, which, alright, it's fine. It requires 1 level 4 lower Cyberse, so it could be a Baylynx, if I'm being honest, because it's pretty generic. It's just as generic as Baylynx, so let's go and look at it. When your opponent activates a trap card, it has to be specifically a trap card. As a quick effect, you can tribute this card, negate the effect, and if you do, banish that card. It doesn't say negate the activation. You just negate the effect and banish it. If this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can tribute an Ignister monster that was special from the extra deck to special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Linkuriboh once per turn. So this can only summon itself out of the graveyard by sacking off extra deck monsters and not just your main deck. Well, you're committing a lot of monsters just to bring this bad boy back, unless you have Ignister extra deck monsters that get effects when they do hit the graveyard. I don't know. So anyway, all the rest of these have been brought to me by Sam Fisher. So shout outs to this guy. So we're going to take a look at the main deck monsters now. And we're going to go ahead and see if the main deck monsters put the extra deck monsters together. And what could this mean for some of the more generic pieces of cyber support out there? You know, what could be used, you know? So I'm assuming the whole deck is level 4 because there's 2... Well, okay, never mind. The Math Mech is not an Ignister. But I'm assuming the whole deck's level 4 because of the Exceed. So let's go ahead and go to Beyond the Duel and start taking a look at these cards, shall we? Alright, so... Yep, we're already starting off a level 4 monster. Okay. Light Cyberse, level 4, pretty much all that matters. If it's normal summon, you can add 1 AI spell or trap from your deck to your hand. You can target an Ignister monster you control, its level becomes level 4. Okay, so not all Ignisters are level 4, so there are different levels in. Baruru Ignister. Baruru. Anyway, when Cyberse is a tuner monster. Are there synchros in here? I don't recall reading over a synchro. Let's keep going. Both hard ones returns on its 1 and 2 effects. If there's a third effect, nope. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send an Ignister monster from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for a Cyber Synchro monster, so Cyberse Quantum Dragon qualifies, you can target a monster in your graveyard that was used as material for this summon, except Burrow will special summon it. So basically, the non-tuners that you're using, you can summon. If you go into a Quantum Dragon, this is also level 4. So you got 2 level 4 so far and a level 3. This is level 4. Dark Cyberse. Let's see. Of course, both effects are once per turn. Again, this card is normal summon or special summoned. You can target one Ignister monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. This card is sent to the graveyard as material for a Cyber's Link monster. You can target an AI spell trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand. It's kind of like a resource intensive deck, kind of like Prank Kids, so where if you use it for certain summons, you can just get things. Reminds me a little bit of Prank Kids already. This is level 2 Archetype Ignister. It's not a tuner. It's a Fire Cyberse, level 2 again. Both effects are hard once per turns. This is normal special summoned. Noticing a pattern here. You can add one level 4 lower Ignister from your deck to your hand. At the start of the damage step, when a Cyberse monster you control battles, you can banish this card from the graveyard, destroy your monster. Your monster? Why? But why? I mean, I guess I'd have to keep going over some of these monsters, but I feel like the one thing that we're really missing now is one Ignister monster that can special summon a Ignister from the hand. That would be pretty good at tying some loose ends for this deck together. Okay, so this is level 1. They're both hard once per turns on both their effects. Alright, so if you control an Ignister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Oh, well, there we go. We got something that can summon itself from the hand. You can target a Cyberse Link monster in your graveyard. Return it to the extra deck, and if you do, add one AI Love Fusion from your deck to your hand. This deck has fusions now? Okay, so we saw tuners earlier, so is this gonna be like a rainbow colored deck? Because there's already links and Xyz, and already we're seeing a fusion card for the archetype. I'm assuming there's a synchro. Does that mean there's a ritual for the archetype too? Psh, that'd be crazy. This would be like Cyberse 2.0, like a Yusaku deck 2.0 essentially. At this point. Alright, so we all know the level 1 monsters of archetypes are the good ones, so and this name is Hiyari Ignister. You can only use, they're both once per turn. If you control an Ignister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Hey, we got another one that can summon itself from the hand. That's good. I mean, they're both hard once per turns. You know, the effect to special summon from hand is an activated effect because there's a colon right here. So I like how there's 2 different ones that can summon themselves from the hand. So you can turbo into that Link 3 Decode Talker looking one, turn 1 if you really wanted to. Alright, you can tribute one other Cyberse monster, add a level 5 or higher Ignister from your deck to your hand. Also, this card becomes level 4 until the end of the turn. If you tributed a Link monster to activate this effect, you add one AI's Ritual. Well, we know we're getting a Ritual now. So, this is a rainbow deck, just like Cyberse. AI's Ritual from your deck to your hand. Add a level 5 or higher Ignister. Oh, it's probably because of rituals. So, let's see. Hey, look, there's a ritual. And it's level 5 or higher, of course. So, it's probably the only target you can search. Let's see. Water Leviathan Ignister. You can summon this card with AI's Ritual. I assumed that. You can only use both effects once per turn. Oh, it has 3 effects. Never mind. So you can only use 1 and 2 per turn. This card is Ritual Summon. You can return all monsters your opponent controls with 2,300 or less attack to the hand. It's a pretty good board wipe that doesn't target, doesn't destroy. I'm down. You can target. You can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Return as many Link monsters as possible from your graveyard into the extra deck, and if you do, that target's attack becomes 0. So it doesn't matter how many Link monsters are in your graveyard, the monster that your target is going to 0. So that's pretty good. So it not only bounces the field, but it also drops the attack of monsters that are above 2,300 to 0 as well, so you can do damage. So once per damage calculation, when this card battles an opponent's monster, you can have that opponent's monster's attack during this damage calculation only. But why do you even need to do that when the second effect lets you reduce a monster to 0? I don't understand that, but I guess more ways to do damage, I suppose. Okay. Oh, we got a fusion. Okay, what are the materials on this? 1 Cyberse monster plus 1 Link monster. That's extremely easy, actually. Alright. You can only use the third effect once per turn. Okay, so the first effect, you take no damage for the rest of this turn after this card is used and summoned. So I'm assuming this also includes burn damage. If this card attacks a monster special summoned from the extra deck, it gains attack equal to its original attack during the damage step. It looks permanent. Okay. When this card is destroyed in battle, you can target a Cyberse monster in your graveyard, except Earth Golem, special summon it. It has to be destroyed by battle. It cannot destroy a monster in battle. It itself needs to be destroyed. That's unfortunate because I was hoping this would be the thing to proactively trigger that Link 3 decode token looking thing. We still don't have anything that can proactively trigger it during the battle phase, so we're going to have to see. And we got a Synchro. Figured that, so we saw a tuner. So it's completely generic. What level is it? It is level 7, so Deshrudo just automatically makes this. You can only use the first, second effects once per turn. During the main phase, you can destroy any number of spells or traps your opponent controls up to the number of Ignister monsters you control. That's a pretty good Harpy's Feather Duster effect right there. I'm still trying to figure out how easy it is to put a bunch of Ignister monsters to the board, though. I mean, there's already 2 that can summon themselves from the hand, but, you know, in terms of going to their extra deck, none of their extra deck monsters so far seem to put additional bodies on board. These extra deck monsters seem to do the opposite. They seem to be removing threats and clearing your opponent's board a lot easier, but I don't see any of them help supplying Ignister monsters to the field. So that could be an issue, but then again, we haven't finished the rest of the cards yet. If this card on your field or in your graveyard and another card you control is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card, target one card your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck. Okay. I have to read that first part correctly. If this card on your field or in your graveyard and another card you control. So basically, this along with another monster needs to be destroyed simultaneously. But it says by battle. I mean, it's not when, so it's not a matter of timing, but I feel like this has to be destroyed at the moment, you know. If, okay, no. This card has already, okay, since it states it has to, you know, it can be in the graveyard as well, then that means it's just for the turn and not at the moment it's destroyed. So, okay, that's good to know. Oh, we got a field spell. Looks like a nice fair/carnival. Ignister AI Land. Okay, so now we're getting some AI cards. You can only use this card's second effect once per turn. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon 1 level 4 Ignister monster from your hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon monsters or another monster with the same attribute with the effect of Ignister. Okay. So you have to be really wise as to what to special summon because, let's see. There's like a few darks, so I don't think you want to summon a dark with this. I think you want to summon the other ones, I guess, so. Yep. And you cannot special summon monsters except for Cyberse monsters, so I kind of figured that. There's always got to be restrictions on everything nowadays. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 Ignister monster from your graveyard, take this card to your field. So you can Foolish Goods this pretty good. What the hell is this? Hey, it's a quick play spell. It could summon an Ignis or monster. So it's called Idling Idle. Is that what these things are called? Idling Born. You can only use this first second effects once per turn. Okay, sure. Target one Ignis or monster in your graveyard. Special summon it. Boom. Okay, that ties in that Decode Talker retrain up quite nicely. I figured the moment I saw that effect, there has to be a way to summon an Ignis or monster to one of his zones during the battle phase. And this does just that. For the rest of this turn after this resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except Cybers, except the entire deck is Cybers, so that's fine. During attack declaration, in a battle between two monsters, you can banish this card and one card from your hand. So I'm assuming this card needs to be on the field. Oh, wait a minute. Does this need to be in your hand to banish? I don't know. Or is it on the field? While you're still in attack declaration phase, I'm thinking, okay, you go, let's say you attack with the Decode Talker, right? And you can activate this on attack declaration, targeting an Ignister and then summoning it, but does that mean you can also use the second effect at that time? Because it is a quick play spell, keep that in mind. And it says during attack declaration in a battle between two monsters. You can banish this card and one card from your hand. Then target an AI spell trap in your graveyard or amongst your banished cards, except the Reborn added to your hand. I'm assuming this is on attack declaration when you swing and activate that card. But if you have to banish it from your hand, then that kind of sucks, but it's whatever. This looks like the fusion card. Yep, AI love fusion. You can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. Fusion summon a Cyberse fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control or have in your hand as materials, typical. If you are using Ignis or monsters as materials, you can also use a link monster your opponent controls as a material. Alright, so it could potentially break a board, or, make a crack or dent in your opponent's board for lack of a better term. This is a ritual spell. Hey, it says Gishki on it. AI no Gishki. This card can be used to ritual summon any Cyberse ritual monster. So you can summon Cyberse Magician with this. Alright. Tribute one Ignis or monster from your hand or field. Or tribute Ignis or monster is not one. From your hand or field. Total is equal or exceed the level. Then ritual summon the one Cyberse ritual from your hand. If you control an Ignis or monster, when you activate this card, you can also banish Ignis or monsters from your graveyard. That's pretty good. It's like Necro's Mirror all over again. I like how you don't have to, eat up resources, but you do have to use Ignis or monsters. So this is the whole archetype from what it looks like. And okay, so just off the jump, this deck revolves around banishing cards, adding cards to hand from grave or banished, and it clears cards. All these boss monsters seem to clear cards. I'm glad that there's two monsters that summon themselves from the hand, and I'm glad that there is a quick play spell that summons a Ignister from just as a quick play spell to trigger the decode. That's good. Now again, this entire archetype seems incredibly splashable with some of the better Cyberse monsters out there. Things like Lady Debug, Balancer Lord, Cyberse gadgets if you can knock it. Things like what's that kite looking thing? There's so many really good generic Cyberse cards, and not to mention Silent Mining as a card. There's all kinds of possibilities with this deck because of all the nice cyber support you got out there. So I actually made tamper with a deck like this, really, honestly. So, what do I think of the potential of the deck overall? Just surface level analysis based on all the other cyber support cards that are already out there. Gold Sark is at 3 still. Or no, it's not a 3. It's a 1. Shoot, my bad. But I'm liking this, guys. I am liking this deck. It seems to have some promise, so we're just gonna have to see where it goes in the future. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm probably gonna test out this archetype. So yeah, let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money. I am signing out.
Through the wastelands, through the highways, and